which is taking precautions against flooding. Is your community already flooded? Okay, so this is community action for safety. So wherever you are, you know how it is. Yesterday we are asking, what are the measures that Nigeria is supposed to take to avert flooding, even if we're going to have it, let it be minimal. These are some of the things that we looked at yesterday, because it don't just, flooding seems to be an annual festival now in Nigeria. Every year we fold our hands that we're waiting for our communities to get flooded. You know how many people were lost in Niger State? Over 100 people, 150 something people. People are still dying, those of them that were rushed to the hospital. So at the end of the day, we'll be losing about 200 people just for the first round of the flooding, because it hasn't even started. Okay, so many other places are still going to be flooded. And we kept asking, what are you doing? After this year's zone, what measures are you going to put in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again? Even if it does, it will be contained, it will be minimal, it won't be fatal. These are some of the things that we're going to look at today, as we have our guest, Chinelo Umokafo. Chinelo Umokafo is the Secretary, Nigeria Environment Society. Good morning, Chinelo.
Good morning. Good morning, Anambra.
Okay, good morning. It's good to have you here.
So a lot of things to talk about flooding in Nigeria. According to reports, she said, like if he said, flooding is something that actually does reoccur in Nigeria, particularly during the rainy seasons. And there've been a lot of calls, and there've been a lot of calls and pleas for community action, to actually arrest, this situation. If you look at, the victims of flood in Nigeria all the way from, at least in recent years, from 2020 to 2022 to 2024 last year, and very recently this year, with reference to what happened in Mokwa, it seems like it's becoming a pandemic. It seems like this has been happening and all that with little or nothing being done. So what do you think can be done? What do you think communities can do? What do you think the government can do? What do you think should be done to arrest this situation?
I think we should just start with what causes this flooding in the first place.
All right.
Because if we talk about what causes it, then we'll know where anybody should come in, whether the government or the community. Okay, there is this heavy rainfall. It's very funny how the rain hasn't even started, and we're already talking about flooding. Then imagine when the rain starts, and the river and dam overflows, and poor urban planning, also one of it, and improper waste disposal. So as much as there's so many other things, rainfall we cannot control because it's beyond our power. But we can do some things where you said the community actions and the government action. At least river and dam overflow, we can do something about it. We can do something about poor urban planning and drainage systems, and we can also do something about improper waste management. So the ones we can do something about, let's do something about it. So the community has to do something, and the government has to do something. So for the improper urban planning and drainage system, that is the government going to do something about it, making sure that people build in the right places and not build along the floodplains. And for community, improper waste management, the community needs to dispose their waste where it's supposed to be, and not just putting it in the drainages and the gutters.
Right, like we were just talking about, let's look at the Niger State situation, and also link it to some states expected to have high rates of flooding, especially in the southern part of the country. State like, of course, Anambra State is on the red alert for, red notice for floodings to actually happen, and then other states. So how best, you just mentioned some of the causes, things that may have caused this flooding. Again, I go back to the first question. How does the government come in? How does the community come in? How best do we eradicate flooding?
Okay, how funny it is that I was in Moka last year. As in, actually where the flooding happened, I was there. I'm actually an environmental consultant, so we did some environmental analysis there, and we did our recommendations and all that. But it's so unfortunate that we are talking about the same Mokwa. And I'm just imagining, what if I was there and this happened? So, like, what can we do, like, as a community? Can we just do the right things? I think the problem we have as individuals is just doing the right things. The government, there are laws and policies that says, throw your dustbin in the dump sites. Why do you have to wait when rain comes and you go and push all your dustbin in the waterways, in the drainage system? Where do you think they're ending up? They're ending up somewhere that is going to cause havoc. So why not just do the right thing? The government will do their own part by bringing out the policies and putting this drainage system. I think in Anambra State there is also something called Operation Clear Your Waterways, which is, if you have a drainage in front of your house, in front of your workplace, clear it. Because if it's not cleared, when it's filled up, it pours back to you. So let's just do the right thing. The government should do their own part and the individuals do their own part.
What are these parts?
Okay.
The government, yeah.
The government, as I said, can go ahead to do this community awareness and education, where they educate the community people of, especially the flood-prone areas, educate them on what they should do, how they should get warning signs, because there's something actually called warning signs, where the NIMET provide the information of these places is going to flood from this so time and this so time. So, in fact, I think that is one of the reasons why Anambra has different IDP camps, where if you have these flood issues, you come out during that period to stay in the IDP camps. When the flood time pass, they move back. So that is a way of government doing their own part. Individuals doing their own part, as I've earlier said, doing as in dumping the refuse in the dump sites, not in the drainages.
Yeah, you say you were in Mokwa recently to do maybe visibility studies or to environmental evaluation or whatever. So can you tell us your findings?
I wish I could show some pictures because the place was already flooded, or the flood impact is already there.
When was that?
That was last year, ending April, May time. So in fact, the day I was leaving Mokwa, it rained. You know, you will not understand it until you actually see it. So we are leaving Mokwa to Mina, and it rained a night before we left. So when we came, we saw people. People have already moved out everything from their houses. Most houses are already filled halfway. So like, I could see the pain in these people, and we have already told you that this thing is already killing people, and please do something about it. That is where the government comes.
Okay, let's get it right. It's more a flood-prone area. Otherwise, what prompted your feasibility study or environmental evaluation of the place? Okay,
you know, in Nigeria, there are different projects that handle so many things. There is this project that is designed, a Crystal project, where they go to, like in Anambra State, it's just like New Map, where you go to the erosion sites. So that is an erosion site, flood erosion site. So you go there to do the environmental analysis and how to control it. So that is what we went there to do. But it's a project, so there are steps to it. There are a series of reports and all that. So we went to do an environmental and social management plan, where we just get the environmental analysis, the soil, the water, and the air as it is before the construction work. So because the idea was to do a construction work where they will carry the water down to the rivers and all that. So they were already doing something. But it's unfortunate that the water is rain now, but if it rains, you need to channel the water to the place that it's going to end. It just, as I said, I wish I could share pictures.
Okay, but can you give us insights to what will it cost the flooding?
in Mokwa, this 29th May one was actually rain. It was actually the rain, but like the rain was severe and it just filled up everywhere. As I said, there are no drainages, because if there were drainages enough to carry those water, it wouldn't have been this bad. But because the drainages are not there, they're still working on the process of building the drainages and all that. So the drainages are not in place. Now, the ones that are there have already collapsed. In fact, if you have read the report says that two major roads has washed off, and I think two culverts or so has also washed off. So like the ones that are there are already washing off. So like there needs to be an immediate solution for the Mokwa.
Since you're talking about statistics, it's also very important to know that at least 700 persons have been infected. Reports say at least 200 persons dead and about 500 persons missing, which is very unfortunate.
It's very, very.
Mokwa at the moment. Let's look at, I know you've talked about that. Now let's look at the states that are flood prone. We do not know, likely we're going to see this happening again and again. It's a Nigerian thing, it happens, and of course I think we enjoy hearing this news, right? Now let's look at the collaboration between government agencies. For example, you talked about New Map. Now what's the name are doing about it? The Nigerian Emergency Agency and all that. Some of these parastatals created by the government to probably sensitize people about this. What's the collaboration between them, the state government, and the communities?
It's just funny how we'll have so many parastatals and so many NGOs and so many CBOs and so many of them. And we still talk about flooding. And every day we talk about it. In fact, every year it's just expected that one flooding will take up, displace so many people. It's just sad. But the NIMET at least has gotten to the level of informing people about what will happen. I think we have gotten to that point. So it's now left for, if you tell me that my house is going to be flooded, it's now left for me to know what to do within that period. If I'm to leave, or when I'm building my house, like, in fact, it's already known in Anambra that there are areas that will be flooded, like Anambra West, like, you already know. So when you are building, one, you should make sure that the building is not blocking the waterways. Floodplain, just build in a way that it doesn't affect where water passes. Because whether you like it or not, water will always find a way to pass. So it's either you're passing through your house or it's bringing down your house. One way it will pass. So I think...
So it's irrespective of no one.
Yes, it doesn't care. It doesn't care if you build a mansion on top of it. If it's going to pass, it's going to bring down your mansion and pass. So I think the best thing we should do as individuals is, if you already know you are prone to flood or even erosion. Erosion is kind of, you already see it when it's starting. So you can actually control it before it gets to the gully level. But flood is something you just comes and works. So if you are in those communities, which has already been listed, it's not like you don't know, you know. So build in a way that you build above or elevate your building to not, even if the flood is coming, let it not get into your building. And when it gets to the time, there are always warning signs. There are always...
What are these warning signs? Because I think you've said it a number of times this morning. So what are these warning signs that people will see and know that, okay, we have to be careful, we have to start probably evacuating our area or something? What are these warning signs?
That is what, as I said, the NIMET always bring out a weather forecast. Like today, there is a weather forecast for it. There is always a weather forecast.
Okay, yes, yeah,
so if that is already an early warning sign, like NEMA already has said, in May, June, July, there will be rain intensity and all that. Please, so you already know it. So you can leave before it happens.
Okay, let's get back to where we started. You know, when flooded every year?
I actually don't know the numbers, but Nigeria is kind of very unique in doing things because we know these things will happen. Instead of us to do something about it, we'll just wait until it happens. I think flooding happens almost everywhere. But Nigeria own, as you said, has become a pandemic that happens every year. Is it that we are not doing enough or that? Like, it's a question that I was just asking myself yesterday. What really happened? We have all these policies and all these things in place that can actually make it easier on the people. But I don't know why it's always like that for Nigeria.
That was exactly why I asked you that question, because there is always a way out. It's just that we don't have the political will. Look at the kind of dam that Cameroon built to contain their own water. And when that dam gets filled, they release it to Nigeria. And then everywhere gets flooded. So what is Nigeria doing to stop this? If there's any place you want to release your water, it can't be Cameroon to Nigeria. And then what stops you from building your own dam to contain your own water, to avert flooding? These are some of the things that some of the questions will ask on yearly basis. You tell me there's nothing to do. There are things to do. It's not that one, we don't have the political power. We don't even want to do it. And sometimes it could be out of wickedness because it doesn't concern me. Let everywhere get free. It will never get to where I am. No, there are a lot of things to do. Build big dams that will take the first force, and then thereafter it will start releasing this water to the rivers and then all the outlets where it will go out from. And then you keep quiet and be waiting every day because money is going to be budgeted for NEMA, for blankets, for food, for this and that. And somebody is feeding on some people's blood.
Yeah.
Blood, lives will be wasted, and you waiting. No, don't worry. But next time they do, another flood will do, and they will bring up money for us to work on it. I'll be able to do this project. That's too bad. That's wickedness. So what are we supposed to do to avert this? Because that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's just very, very sad. In fact, the Mokwa incident was sent to me straight. Like when it happened, I got a direct message from people I worked with in Mokwa that see what is happening in Mokwa. So it was really, really sad for me. Like 3,000 households being displaced, and it's not like we couldn't do. As I said, I was in Mokwa last year. Last year, that is a full year that something could have been done, and nothing has been done. We are now crying at this thing we didn't know is going to happen and all that. Yeah, it's a natural disaster, doesn't mean that we don't have something to do. There is flood preparedness. Like, you need to prepare for a flood. There are things you need to do before the flood comes, and there are things you need to do when it's happening, and there are things you need to do after it happens. Yeah, flooding is a natural thing, but we can do something about it, both individuals and government. Like, for instance, before this flooding, we can strengthen infrastructures, drainages, like making sure that the right things are done before flooding. Because as you earlier said, what is so wrong in us building a dam? There is nothing wrong. In fact, the north is a place where there should be several dams because they don't have frequent rainfall. And this dam can be used for irrigation and for so many things. But I don't know if there is this anyhowness of Nigerian ways. We just do it. It's not my business. So, as I said, somebody will just wake up and carry their dustbin and go to the drainage and dump it. And in the person's mind, water is going to carry it now. Carry it to where? So, it's not even just the flooding. What about the impact it has on the people after this flooding? The sicknesses, the damages, the property loss, and all that. So I think we should stop this, our anyhowness, it's not my business. And we should actually start doing something, both as individuals as government.
You just talked about, you basically touched all the aspects of, arresting or let's say eradicating the impact of flood, because like you said, floods will always happen, but the impact is actually what we actually talking about. You talked about infrastructures in terms of drainages. You've talked about constructions in terms of also dams too, and you also talked about educating people, sensitizing them, the communities, paying attention to the directives of the NIMET and all that. But there was something I actually did ask earlier, and probably in trying to explain something, you digressed a bit. The question seems, what has been the collaboration between government parastatals, the NIMET, the NEMA, the state government, the federal government, and all others, like you just said? We have lots of NGOs who are very, very much invested, but we know the activity of the NGOs now, lots of question marks about how the impact they've made over the years, because sometimes you see NGOs come to the country and they pay rent of over 15 years. So if an NGO is paying a rent of over 15 years to stay in Nigeria, it means it's not looking at eradicating or stopping whatever they're coming to fight or something like that in the next 15 years or something. So what has been the collaboration with the NIMED, the NEMA, the state government, the federal government, and other NGOs to actually eradicate flooding and also ameliorate the impact in terms of helping the victims of flood across the country?
There have been, okay, let me even use the example of the MOPA now. I know the federal agencies and Red Cross are already in MOPA, helping out the victims and also looking for the people that are still missing. So I think there have always been collaboration between them. But the impact of the collaboration is something we hardly say. We'll say there is community awareness, education, the societies go to these communities, educate, snap pictures and send that these people are aware and all that. But when it comes to the next rainy season, it seems like they didn't even do anything in the first place. Because if the people are aware of it, then there are things they should have done before then. And the government will keep telling you they're building drainages, roads. In fact, I think one of the problems we have is these government constructions. Because most of the government constructions, there is something called an environmental impact assessment, which is supposed to happen before every big construction comes, which is just a measure to make sure that the construction is done accordingly, not to impact somebody else somewhere down the line. So, like, there have always been this collaboration between government agencies and the NGOs and all that, but we are not seeing the impact. Okay, I built a road. How is that road in the next 5 years? How is that road? Has the road caused more harm to the people, or it has relieved them from so many things? So I think we should always have this before we start anything. We have an analysis or assessment so that when we finish it and stay some years, we'll say, let's go back and check if these people have actually been improved or all that. But I don't think we do that.
You're talking about the government, right?
Yes.
So what about the environmentalist? What is your input when you see a road being constructed? What is your input to ensure, to advise the government that this thing you are doing, it's going to take out to this and to that? That is going to be the repercussion at the end of the day. What is the role of the environmentalist in this place? That is,
as I told you earlier that I went to do an environmental and social management plan, yes, which is just telling the government, this drainage you are building should not be half terminated. For instance, I'm just giving it as an instance. If you are building a drainage, it should be channeled to a river or it has to be channeled to somewhere. That is my role. I will always give you a full report. In fact, there is always a full report where I talk about the soil and the water and the air of a place before construction. And after construction, there is something also called an environmental audit, where a consultant also comes back to make sure that the contractor that did this work actually followed the rules and the code of conduct that he's supposed to follow before, as in, while doing the work. It's just like our regular way of doing.
And where you notice they don't do it.
You go back to the government. Everything goes to the government.
Have you watched the film, The American President?
Okay, no. Maybe I will see it after this program.
Please try to do and see the role of the environmentalist, the lady that came for lobbying. Is that they have lobbyists among the environmentalists that went to the White House to lobby for the project they have at hand. That's after the annual budget something, and they saw that what was the proper attention was not given to environment. And they sent in a lobbyist to go and do this. It was a big deal. Watch that film. There's a role that you need to play as an environmentalist to make sure that you get these things right. It's very important. Okay, we don't just, suggest to them and you go to sleep. Perhaps what you suggested is something that will cost them more money. Nobody wants to spend money. So you have to follow them. You have to lobby. You have to who does he listen to? How will I make him listen to? Does he listen more to the wife? Let me go to the wife. Let me do this. That is how to lobby. Okay. The important is for us to get what we want. Yes. Okay. Let's look at the what do you call it? The environmental condition of the whole world now, because when you say this flooding is not just happening here, but what we are looking at is the precaution. What do we do so that we don't record this kind of fatality that we'll record whenever there is flood in this nation? So how far, what are you going, what is your orientation like? Telling people that's environmental changes, so this is what you're supposed to be doing, and this is what you're supposed not to be doing. This rain is coming, and if it does come, this is what it's going to cost on that. How do you build your house? How do you keep your road? How do you do this? And a whole lot of things, because recently we started seeing that this changes in the pattern. We'll build a house, and then we'll fill every ground up with, what do you call it?
Interlocking.
Interlocking even has space that can take a little water. This time they fill it up. I don't know what they call it. It's the recent one.
Include stamping.
Okay, stamping or whatever it is. Okay, so there is no way the ground will take water from that compound. Every water that comes into that compound gets out of that compound. And then with that force, your own is coming, my own is coming, this person is coming. And then it starts washing the roads off. What is your agency doing to educate the people on how to build properly, to checkmate it? We are talking about the community now, not just the government.
Yeah. The Nigerian Environmental Society will always educate and create this awareness. The house building patterns is something that will have been discouraged for a very long time. Somebody will come and seal off the whole house. In fact, I think that is why the initiative of every household should plant at least two trees in their house came up. And I don't know how
it has actually been going.
How it has been going. But as an agency, we have also gone to some estates to plant trees and also monitor the trees. It's not just planting the trees and leaving it. It's making sure that these trees get to the level of actually providing what you want it to provide, which is soil coverage and all that. So I think as a community, both individuals in it and as a general community, we need to do our own part, which include not sealing up the whole house. It's very funny, but just sealing up our whole house. There should be, in fact, our forefathers have, we say we are more intelligent and more exposed and more digital. But when it comes to environmental management, our forefathers did perfectly well than us. You hardly see a household that didn't have a garden in those days.
And me.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
The catchment.
Yeah.
That hole that they build that collects water from the compound.
In fact, for us, that is way down the end side, which is also Aguata.
Anambra side. Yomi is very popular with you guys.
We don't do without water harvesting. Yeah, if it rains and you don't collect water, you are going to lack water throughout the year. So for us, it's more, we might think is, let's get water we are using. But it's a way of actually
controlling the environment.
Helping the environment. So, like, we should not just build the house and just seal up the place because you don't want grasses to grow in it. It's important that you have green areas for your own good. It's not even just for flooding and erosion or environmental degradations. It's for your own good. Good air, good refreshed air and all that. So if you come to a house where there are trees and it's so different from where it's all sealed up. You might think, grass are not growing in my house, but the ecosystem in your household has already changed. Everything that comes there and is not managed very well, it starts destroying things. So we should also have this mentality of do unto others what we want others to do unto us. Because if we always have that mentality, we'll always know that anything I do ends up somewhere and is going to cause a problem for that person. So why not I start from my own end and start controlling it before it causes havoc? So I just think we all have to have this mentality of do unto others what we want others to do unto us.
Let's look at the impact on the victims. We just talked about the situation in Mokwa. At least 500 persons missing at the moment. Over 3,000 homes, people displaced, and a lot of deaths from at least 2022, about almost 1.3 million or more, being victims of, floodings across the country. So what have been the plan? What has the government been able to do, aside food sharing? Have these people been empowered? Have these people been, being aided to, getting back to their communities? Have there been insurance plans for them? Because we know that there are insurance plans for victims of flood, talking about the Nigeria Flood Insurance Program or private insurance. There are lots of, so what have been done so far for victims of flooding?
President, I am not a Mokwana, but I think the regular thing that Nigeria does is just share food.
And blankets.
And blanket. That is very, and if you hear the amount of money that is supposed to go to these people or mapped out for people that have this kind of issues, you'll be wondering, how does this money just buy food and blankets? It's a sad reality for us. And the Red Cross is always coming in at the time where the flooding, in fact, any natural disaster, the Red Cross is always there to assist. But I think mapping out money, the main reason for mapping out money is for it to be used for what it's for. It can't just be providing of food and blankets. It should be more than that. You are displacing, people are being displaced, 3,000 people being displaced, and counting, because we don't actually know the final figure. At least 3,000. That is a lot of families. That is 500 households, at least. So, you can't just be talking about food. And what about education? What about the security? There's so many things that we should not be just talking about food and blankets. So, the government needs to do more. I don't know if we are waiting for, if the government keep praying for disaster, because
Probably because there are private persons who may, I won't want to use the word benefit, but who may, supervise, let's say palliatives or resources to these people. And of course, we know the Nigerian thing whereby when you're helping other people, you help yourself the most. So probably this is one of the reasons why we keep seeing this nonchalant attitude towards flooding and victims of a flood.
We are all human beings. I think we should first be human beings first, before everyone.
That's the whole human being thing. You help people, but help yourself most.
No, that is not human being thing.
It's a scarcity thing for us here in Nigeria. You hardly see us being humanist. Most of the times we go really harsh on other people and all that.
Okay. As we get ready to leave the stage, I think you need to talk to our people basically on what to expect and the precautions to take to avert flooding in our communities, because there's this climate change. Everybody knows about that. And climate change simply implies that when it starts raining, it rains excessively. When it starts shining, it shines excessively. I don't know, whatever they have done to the ozone layers, only God knows. And whatever, when it's cold, is excessive cold, okay? So that's how bad, how far the climate has changed, and it's still not It's not even abetting. It's going on every day, changing. So what we need to do is to tell our people how to adapt to this climate and what to do and what not to do to ensure our safety. Yes, dear.
Okay. I need to really commend Anambra State because I think Anambra has been collaborating with the NIMET very well and actually giving early warning signs and early warning notifications and all that. And also, like this, the operation Clear Your Waterways has actually been in place and all that. So I think the first thing we need to do as a community, when I mean communities generally, is can we just do the policies that are there? Can we just follow it? At least, policy says that if there is a drainage in front of your household, clear it. So, clear your drainages. When I mean clear, it's not when you bring it out from the drainage, you keep it, and when the next rain comes, it washes it back into the drainage. No. Clear it means bring it out and dispose it at the right dump sites. That is what clearing is. So, like, community engagement, informing the community education, telling the community, see, these things are happening. Please do this.
Who will be telling them?
That is the work of the NGOs and the CBOs and the church.
Do you guys have meeting points? Do you have meeting points?
Yes. In fact, on the 5th of this month is World Environment Day. So there are so many things we'll do. Both going to churches to tell the church, you know, the best way to even communicate to our people is mostly through churches, because everybody goes to church.
This time they go to shrine. You may need to.
You
may need to explore that one too.
Yeah, the religious. It's not really only churches. There are monks and the traditional distance. So these are the ways that we talk to them. So informing the churches or the traditional beliefs and the monks. Do these announcements in your churches to inform the people that these things are happening and these are the things you're supposed to do. When it gets to that time, come out from where you are. I think Anambra State has this IDP camp for flood-prone areas. So come out. Another thing our government needs to do in that part is actually provide enough utilities for them in the IDP camps to make sure that it accommodates them through the period of the flood. So when they finish, they go back to their houses when it's cleared, because it has to be cleared that everything is okay before you go back. So, like, if we can do our individual assignments properly, and government does their own properly too, I think flooding shouldn't be a case we have to discuss every year.
So what have been the collaboration between the government and the NGOs and the NBOs and other agencies that you just mentioned here in Anambra State?
Okay, for us, I was with the commissioner one of the environmental day, and
which of the commissioners?
The commissioner for environment.
All right.
So it was on this ABS, and we were just collaborating, and after that, we collaborated in tree planting, going to communities to plant trees and all that. So there have always been collaboration. And as a society, we also go beyond waiting for the government to actually do the collaboration and go to the community members to educate them and tell them the reasons why they should do things. Because if you don't tell people why they need to do things, they will not do it. So it's more of educating them and also making sure that they follow through with what you said.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chinelo Unoka, for Secretary, Nigerian Environment Society. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, and you remember we looked at taking precautions against flooding, community action for safety. This is where we are drawing the curtain for this segment. You do stand by for the next segment, which is Catch the Bus. And then if you will join us for that, stand by.